Paddy Pimblett's eccentric rise in the UFC has drawn mixed reactions. While a few think he's the next big thing in the sport, the new cash cow of the UFC, and even Conor McGregor's successor, most think he is just a cocky and bigoted tin can waiting to be crushed and exposed. The question is, why did MMA fans start to hate him? Let's dive deeper into the Brit's rise in the UFC to find some answers. Paddy Pimblett had a healthy fan base even before he signed with the UFC, which is primarily because of his electrifying personality, his trademark Ketwig haircut, and his mastery of textbook British banter that rubs some the wrong way. But more than anything else, it's his comparisons to Conor McGregor that have turned him into one of the biggest MMA stars in the world, even though he's not ranked in the UFC. Much like McGregor, Pimblett is a polarizing figure who made a name for himself in Cage Warriors when he joined the Irishman as one of the promotion's featherweight champions. The UFC had been scouting Pimblett for years before he signed with the promotion in 2021. The reason was that Conor McGregor had stopped fighting regularly after his big boxing payday in 2017, and knowing that the Irishman's hunger was gone, the UFC looked for similar prospects. Pimblett was one of the options, while Ian Gary and Sean O'Malley were the other. Pimblett's debut against Luigi Vendramini 2021 was a treat for Liverpudlians, and not so much for the rest of MMA fans. He came in hot and got cracked early by Vendramini, but just when it looked like Paddy was going to get knocked out cold in his debut, he pulled off a reversal and ended Vendramini's night with a horrifying knockout. Since then, it has been a wild ride full of loud and aggressive trash-talking, Twitter wars, and chaotic overeating. His eating habits in particular have infuriated fans and professionals alike. The British lightweight is a foodie, and after fights, he tends to balloon up to 200 pounds thanks to all the burgers, pizzas, and ice creams he feasts on. For a professional fighter, that is akin to a criminal offense, one that is detrimental to their careers. Some even think he's an unprofessional brat.
The reason Paddy the Baddy gets as big as he is because it's like you get this mental disorder. I strict as fuck.
Now, popularity comes with a price, and sometimes a hefty one. After making a successful UFC debut, Pimblett's old tweets came back to haunt him, especially those he made against his fellow countryman, Muhammad Mokaev, who settled in England as an immigrant a decade ago. Pimblett wasn't happy with Mokaev representing England in one of his fights. Here is what Baddy tweeted: "You wear that flag as a fraud. You are not from here." Pimblett reiterated his comments after Mokaev called him a racist. Mokaev wasn't the only fighter Pimblett subjected to his below-the-belt remarks. Ilia Topuria didn't appreciate Pimblett talking smack about his country of birth, Georgia.
He was arguing with one of my closest friends, with Guram, once in Twitter, and he posted like, now I understand why Russia destroyed Georgia, because you are dumps. And it makes my blood boil, you know. When I saw, I was like surprised. I didn't believe when I saw that tweet.
Now it's understandable that there are no filters as far as trash talking in MMA is concerned, and the UFC in particular is very liberal in that sense. There are no rules or limitations, and as long as it sells tickets and generates pay-per-view, it's all good. But that doesn't mean there are no consequences whatsoever. In Pimblett's case, it's because of his unfiltered trash talking that most people want to see him lose brutally because they think of it as poetic justice. Pimblett's personality is not everyone's cup of tea, especially when most MMA fans consider MMA as a sacred sport where respect, honor, and integrity are held in high regard. So when a young and hungry prospect enters the Shark Tank, it rubs MMA fans the wrong way when he pretends to be some sort of a champion or the big guy and disrespects established fighters. Like Pimblett taking jabs at Khabib. If you are taking jabs at someone with 35 million Instagram followers, you better be ready for some sort of backlash. Now, Pimblett may have a point when he talks about Khabib's record because opinions are subjective, but when you take jibes at Khabib and Mokaev, you put yourself in a bad position with fans. Khabib has a massive fan base, but the Russians may not be the only ones disliking Pimblett. It's just that most MMA fans don't like his overconfidence. It's one thing if you dominate your opponents and then make big claims, but it's entirely different when you have shown vulnerability time and again. Each of Pimblett's 5 fights in the UFC have raised questions. He was almost knocked down by Vendramini, had scary moments against Kazula Vargas and Jordan Leavitt, and was gifted a controversial decision against Jared Gordon. Despite arguably losing, Pimblett came out and told the media that he won comfortably, citing Gordon's busted-up face as evidence. Needless to say, fans didn't like it, but to be fair, he would have shot himself in the foot by admitting defeat. So, we'll let that one pass. What rubs MMA fans the wrong way, however, is his claim that he's the best. Sure, he's a great grappler with fists of fury, but he is reckless, is far from technical on the feet, and he may lose against a genuine step-up in competition. Pimblett has a very poor striking defense, which is mostly down to his over-reliance on hitting hard, which is a problem. If you always swing with all your power, it might mess up your form, and good fighters can see your punches coming. Pimblett also has trouble defending against leg kicks, so against elite competition, he may have his work cut out for him. Even his most recent win against Tony Ferguson raised a few questions. Apart from a few great moments on the feet, he couldn't exert his dominance on an aging Ferguson. I mean, even the UFC didn't think the win was impressive enough to land him a spot in the lightweight top 15. So, if you are talking big but are failing to back it up inside the cage, MMA fans ought to be mad. It's hard to see Pimblett get to the top with his current skill set. But the good thing is that, with each victory, he is attracting admirers as well as haters. Whether he's doing it the right way or the wrong way, he's attracting eyeballs, and that's what matters for him and the UFC at the end of the day, and if he keeps winning, he may find himself swimming among the sharks very soon. But does he have the tools to beat the likes of Islam Makhachev, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, and Dustin Poirier? If he wants to be a champion, that is who he needs to beat. And the road that leads to the big guns is full of roadblocks. I find it very challenging to imagine Pimblett defeating most of the fighters in the lightweight rankings. Guys like Makhachev, Oliveira, Poirier, and Gaethje would eat him up, and even if you consider the rising talents in the division, such as Rafael Fiziev, Mateusz Gamrot, or Arman Tsarukyan, it's doubtful that Pimblett would come out on top. These fighters are all highly skilled and have fewer weaknesses compared to the Brit. These are the ones who deserve more spotlight and push from the UFC. The UFC lightweight division is full of killers, but when the new guy on the block gets all the spotlight and when hard workers are ignored because they have fewer followers on social media, it isn't a good look for the sport. While it's true that Pimblett is more marketable than most guys mentioned above, he's perhaps not better or miles ahead of them, which is why fans want the UFC to pump the brakes on spending time and energy on promoting Pimblett. That's all from our side, but we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. To stay in the loop with the latest events in the world of mixed martial arts, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next update.